still got a couple minutes. I don't think everyone's here yet.
You want to know why? Because it never happens. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. Cardio actually burns calories.
This guy comes up on my YouTube all the time, and I don't know why. I'd really like to get rid of him.
Our next guest is an enormously talented singer.
I'd rather see David Letterman. All right. I'm going to give it like maybe 60 more seconds just since it's the first day and maybe someone's wandering around out there. But I will be right back. You guys can remain sitting inside.
I know we faster than I was. How did I miss that? Like, I know, like I looked at this classroom and I was just like, no, I don't think that's it. I know, because I didn't see anyone either.
You know, the whole mask thing bugs us for so many different reasons, but one of the weirdest things that I've noticed is this. Like before classes, no one talks to each other. Everyone just, but I get it. I found myself talking so much less in stores and all that stuff. And it's creepy. I'm just gonna get it out there, it creeps me out. And then there, now I feel better. You can laugh under your mask. I'm tinkering with something today too, so see where I would put this. That looks actually pretty good. So I'm sure at some point, half of you will be quarantined for some various reasons. So in last semester, I haven't even said hi yet. Hi, I'm Dr. Meyer. I think I know all of you though. All of you have been in at least one of my classes at some point. But last semester, we had to come up with stuff on the fly. My genius solution to people being quarantined was putting up the PowerPoints, which is helpful, and then recording the lectures with my cell phone, which was fine, but I walk around a lot, so like it would sound good for like 3 seconds, and then I would fade off the distance. So what I'm messing with here is I'm actually streaming live right now on YouTube. So this seems to be better. So now if you're not here, you can be here. You'll just be inside it's weird. You'll be inside my laptop watching. So I'm going to tinker with this today and just see how it looks and sounds and all that sort of thing. But it seems like it'd be better to actually have the lecture and see, and kind of interact a little bit. So, but anyway, I am Dr. Meyer, and this is how we're going to start, kind of in maybe a different way. We're not going to do the syllabus just yet. Well, we will do that. I do understand it's day one, and I'm contractually obligated to make it syllabus day in some regard. I'm actually going to pass these out. I'm just going to pick your brain a little bit. There we go. This is marriage and family therapy, by the way. If you thought it was a Spanish 110 or something like that, you can run away now. Answer all of the questions except for number 5, because that one doesn't make sense yet. I mean, it might, but I don't need to answer it. There you go. There you go. And last but certainly not least. There you go. How are you? Good. take your time. We got a couple hours together here. Something like that. 100 minutes? I don't know what it is. Take your time and answer these. And then number 5 actually serves a purpose, I promise. You have a question or you have a statement? Oh, fantastic. Oh, sorry. It's supposed to say what does therapy look like. Thanks for finding my first typo. Yeah, sorry. Number 2 is what does therapy look like, which is often a mystery. If you haven't been to therapy, people, it's almost like this mysterious thing that's out there. You've heard of it. You've heard rumors about it. Hang on a little music. Have the silence while you write. Music video's done, so cue the naked guy telling me about weight loss. Here he comes, I'm sure. I hope I'm wrong. Oh no, it's a different guy. Oh. People are finishing up, so put your heads down. Remember when teachers used to tell that to you? You say it in college, people fall asleep, you'll never wake up.
Nobody tells you where to go.
Some people are still wrapping up. For those of you who are done, have a good break. Do anything fun? Listen, none of us did. I know, none of us did.
Did you do anything fun?
I mean, with absolutely, my kids. I actually enjoy spending time with them. So now we usually kind of, I don't know, hold ourselves up together anyway during the holidays. We don't really. I mean, we usually go places like fun. We had a lot of plans, of course, with everybody else, but other than that, it was good. It was fairly normal, actually. Fun time to take a family therapy class. Everyone's spending like insane amounts of time with their loved ones. I hope you like them. If you don't, it's going to be exposed now. All right, it looks like people are pretty much done. I'll shut this off. We're going to switch gears. We did this for a reason. We'll come back to it, but seems like a good time to just get some basics, nuts and bolts. Yes, part of today is, of course, explaining what in the heck is going on in this class and what we're going to do. So let's just do that now, and then we'll come back to this. So if you were wondering, oh my gosh, it's not coming up on Brightspace, that's because I didn't make the course active until about 60 minutes ago. So if you didn't see it on Brightspace last night or this morning, it should be up there now, and it looks like some of you are following along. It looks like it's there. So intro to marriage and family therapy. Let's see, where to start. We might as well go here. You're going to see a few things over here. I know every professor is probably doing things a little bit differently. My goal for you today, we actually might take a few notes, just some really introductory stuff, just to, I guess, break the ice a little bit. But my goal for you today is to walk out of here not confused at all of what it is you're going to have to do as the weeks roll by. It seems like the biggest problem a lot of students had last semester is in some classes, things were really straightforward and you knew what you had to do. And there are other classes where you just had no clue, like week to week, like what are we doing? So that's my goal. I organized it in a certain way. It might not be the perfect way, but my goal is for you to understand what it is going on. So the syllabus, of course, is up here. Let's just crack this open because it'll tell you everything that you need to do. Well, this is, let's make this bigger. There we go. It's a little bit bigger. Have any of you heard? I mean, I know you're taking the course, but have you heard of MFT, marriage and family therapy? Like what is it? Because when I was in your shoes, I had never seen those three letters together. Actually, I didn't know what it was. I mean, I've heard of family therapy, of course, that makes sense. But you shook your head. It's after my name. What is an MFT? You said yes. Were you lying?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm smiling at
It's
you.
hard to explain.
It is?
I can't think of the word
Okay.
well. But it's basically just somebody that works with families and couples to help better their marriages and families.
That's part of it. Yeah. Anybody else take a crack at it? Have you ever heard of a clinical counselor? A mental health professional, mental health counselor? Maybe you've heard of a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, a clinical. We all do the same thing. An MFT is it's a therapist. So it's a licensable, that's a word, I make things up all the time, degree that you can get. And you can see it's after my name, so this is fun. Not only is this intro to MFT, but you're taking the class from an MFT. So when I'm not here, some of you know this, but I do have a private practice in Canton, Ohio. So I'm usually either here teaching, I'm home with the kids and the family, of course, or in the private practice that I share with my wife, where we practice the mysterious universe of MFT. She's actually a clinical counselor. So I'm an MFT, she's a clinical counselor. By the time we're done, these 15 weeks, you'll understand that there's these different licensed degrees in the world of therapy have much more in common than they do different from each other. But so MFT is just one of the pathways that you can take in the United States to become a therapist. That it's actually a little bit of a misnomer. MFTs, obviously, we work with families and couples. Clearly, that's why we're called MFT. But to tell you the truth, I'd say 80% of my clients are actually individuals who are coming in with anything from depression to schizophrenia to anxiety, which is sort of the specialty that I work with. But an MFT works, treats, diagnoses, and treats mental illnesses just like any other licensed therapist. What makes us different is the training, and that's kind of what you guys are going to get sort of an eye-opening experience into, is what makes the world of MFT different. That's basically what this course is all about, introducing you to the world of MFT. So I actually kind of like that it's confusing and hard to explain, because hopefully by May, it's easy to explain. Like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. So of course, we're going to introduce you to this. For your act, that's not very important. We're not going to read through these. It's there for your reading pleasure. I'm sure your roommates, when you get home, you're going to sit down and read the syllabus to them. But it is up here. Of course, technology requirements. Should you go into quarantine, I do hope you have access. If you have any issues or problems, just let me know as we go. There's one book. It's right here. It's kind of tiny, which is usually good. It's actually also not very expensive. At least it shouldn't be. But if you have any problems getting this, just let me know. You can borrow my copy if you want to. I've read it a few times. So here's usually when we do syllabus day on the first day, this is what you're most interested in, right? What's coming? What are the things that we're going to have to do? Well, the one thing that you'll have to do, we'll have a couple exams in here. One sort of in the middle, which we call a midterm, and one at the end that we call a final. But these two larger, I guess, assessments will not be comprehensive. They'll be non-comprehensive. Why is that a good thing? You don't even know what that means.
Well, I just like don't remember anything really from like, it's hard like when the file comes around, you know.
In other words, in this class, think of it like being in 2 acts. We'll have Act 1, there'll be an assessment over that, and then we'll have Act 2, and there'll be an assessment over that. In other words, on your the final exam is only a final exam, I guess, in name. It's not going to cover stuff from today or next week or that sort of thing. So we'll have about 7 weeks or so, and then we'll have that. And then we'll have another 7 weeks, and we'll do it all over again. In between, though, we'll have some quizzes. We'll have some review quizzes that are sprinkled out there in between. My goal is to get about 5 of them in the first half, and then 5 of them in the second half. So we have other things to rely on other than just these 2 looming. And when I was I know it's not the norm anymore, but when I was in school, that's all we ever had in my classes. I went to The Ohio State University. But in almost all of my classes, we would have a midterm and a final, and that was it. Like there was no other grades. Like exactly, you talk about anxiety. It's like this is it. Like I have one chance. So we'll have some review quizzes, and the fun thing about the review quizzes, as long as you do all of them, is we always drop. I say we. Like we're collective. Like it's your choice. I always drop the lowest score of the quizzes in this class. So if you like bomb the first one, don't worry, maybe that's the one that we're going to drop. So at the end of the semester, we'll look through your quiz scores and we'll get rid of the worst one. So we have 10, but only 9 will actually count there. This thing called ordinary people, I don't know what else to call this, and this probably won't make much sense to you right now. You're actually going to get a crack at it this week, though. Really, the only way to really understand family therapy and the principles of MFT and what makes it different and what makes it tick, and put it this way, MFTs just sort of see the world a little bit differently, and they see problems a little bit differently, and they look at couples and families and relationships a little bit differently. I guess you just get trained to notice things that other people might not notice and emphasize. The only way to really get good at that is not that you're going to be turned into experts in 15 weeks, but you have to look at families, you have to observe families, and apply the principles that you learn. Now, obviously, ethically, I can't bring in families in the room and say, this is the Johnsons. Johnsons, do your thing. We can't do that. But we'll be using some, at least what I find to be some personally good examples through different films and shows and that sort of thing that really show some family dynamics that we'll be emphasizing. And I call these things ordinary people. 3 different times in the semester, we'll watch families together and then apply the stuff that you're doing. So does that make sense? It's usually interesting. It's maybe, I guess, a fun part of the course. I hesitate using the word fun. And I don't know why I'm using air quotes, but I have a 9-year-old, Hayden. Maybe that's why I'm doing this. Like she just got introduced to, I guess she saw it on TV or something. She has spent the last like 2.5 weeks going around her house, like using air quotes all the time. She's like, "Hi, Dad." Like, hi. It creeps me out a little bit. But it's on my brain. So ordinary people, there'll be assignments attached to this. It'll make more sense once we do the first one. And like I said, in fact, this week, I didn't even think about this. Part of your assignment this week is actually going to be doing that a little bit. Have you ever heard of a genogram? Good. It would be boring if you did. All of you at some point in this class are going to make a genogram. More on that later. So a genogram is like an essential tool for an MFT, for marriage and family therapist. In fact, I wouldn't say I do it all the time, but most of the time, even with individuals, a genogram is sort of like a family tree, only it has some very specific rules that apply to it. It goes back, think of yourself where you're at, and think of your family 2 generations back from you. The genograms usually go back about 3 generations. And a family tree just gives you what? It gives like names and dates, and well, here's your uncle who was born in 1945, and that sort of thing. Genograms do a lot more than that. Genograms are actually a snapshot, not just of your family tree, but also of relational patterns that exist inside your family tree. Because believe it or not, relational patterns and the way people treat each other and the way people, the roles that they play inside their family actually trickle down through family trees. There's a lot more to hereditariness and genetics than just your genes that get passed down. It's fun to watch, well, if it's a good thing. But family interactions and patterns literally get passed down through family trees. In fact, you could probably have a conversation with your parents and talk about their relationship and maybe your relationship with them. and you can see similar patterns not too far away. So it'll make more sense, trust me. A genogram project is something that we'll do. And then discussions. I know I put up there each week. It'll be almost every week. The discussions, this is sort of like a bridge. I only get to see you guys once a week, right? So you're here on it is Tuesday, right? I am so tired. So I'm a Browns fan. I'm a Buckeyes fan. The past 48 hours have been an emotional roller coaster. And I'm just proud to be conscious and standing upright and actually speaking words to you. So I'm very tired. But the discussions each week, some of them will be, well, they'll all be different. These are not like grand like research papers that you're writing each week. So I don't need to look at this like each week we're going to be doing these. However, I think of the discussions as being like tiny mini papers that you'll write each week. It's just something out there to keep you connected to the class once I say goodbye to you every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, to keep you connected, because every week, of course, we'll have online content, right? Because we're still in hybrid mode. And the discussions are usually based off of that. So again, I'll show you the first one. There's actually one up there this week. And again, the topics will vary. They'll all be a little bit different, but it'll always be tied to something that we either just talked about or something that's coming. So I see the discussions as like a little bridge between seeing you and not seeing you. Of course, there's our little rating scale and all that. And the rest of this is just cut and paste stuff that you probably see in all of your syllabi, because the University of Mount Union has gone to a standardized forms of syllabus. So there we go. So if you have any questions so far, what we're going to do? Yeah, I do have a statement. Perfectly fine. All right, so what else? There's no particular order that I'm doing this in. So that's the syllabus. It's out there. Feel free. Oh, I should tell you, I always want to point this out. Student grievances. No, not that. I have a real problem with this guy, which is fine. If you've gone to SAS, if you have an accessibility statement, I don't know about it unless you tell me. So if that's a thing, by all means, just let me know, like for extended time on exams and that sort of thing. But aside from that, all right, so we go to this. Let's go to the course home. In fact, I'm going to view it as a student just to make sure it looks okay. So now I'm a student. Now I am one of you. This is what my class looks like. The main three tabs we're going to use, in fact, I could probably just edit this and get rid of the other ones because they're sort of meaningless for you guys. Course materials, the assessments, and communication. So, of course, just go to content. That's, of course, the main one. There was the syllabus. The course information is just sort of a little primer. It's like it has some basic stuff like meet the professor and that sort of thing. I mean, I'll click on it. Here you go. Meet the prof. What did I even put on there? Well, there's a picture of me from 10 years ago. So you see less gray. That was before the second child. The second child reduced the hairline and brought some gray hair on the side. But that's me. And the course information just has some basic stuff. And in fact, all the stuff that's in the syllabus is right here, once again. But this is the important one. As the weeks go by, this will help you explain, I guess, the operation of the course. As the weeks go by, you will see we'll build. We're in week 1 now, so there's a week 1 tab. Magical, right? Put it this way. In all of my classes, I do this the same, just to keep it streamlined. Every week, to me, in my brain, starts on Monday morning. And the week ends on Sunday at midnight. So every week, new stuff will open. So you'll see week 2, week 3. On Monday mornings, there'll always be a new week, whatever it is. And on Sunday at midnight, the stuff for that week will be due. Does that make sense? In other words, every week in this course, you'll be presented with new stuff. I'll hopefully see you every Tuesday. And then just think of it that way. So quizzes, discussion questions, that sort of thing. The door closes midnight on Sunday. So hopefully that makes sense and keeps it organized. And when you click on the week, everything that you will need for that week is magically there for you at your fingertips. So let's click on week 1 and make sure I have it all set up. And by the way, this week is purposely very light. So I did this on purpose just so, again, like I said, my goal for this week is for you to understand, just to get a feel for what things are going to look like, because it's going to look the same every single week, just different content. So every time you open up a weekly module, you'll see two things. You'll see the overview. Of course, now it says week 1 overview. And then below that will be all of the stuff, the online content for you to digest on your own on Thursday or whatever it is you do it. And I throw that out there because a couple of my students, not a couple actually, quite a few of them last semester, and maybe it's just the way that I had it set up. I designed the online stuff to, in my head, I'm thinking, all right, this should take up about as much time as it would if you were actually sitting in class. In other words, here's some things that we would be doing if you were actually face-to-face with me. So I guess that's what it is. In other words, I'll never be like, read 100 pages. That's your online content for the week. No, it's always stuff to engage you for about 100 minutes or so. And what I had some groups of students last semester do is they actually got together during the class time. I don't know if you even know one in the class. I guess that would be step 1. But they got together during the class time and did the online content during the class time. That kept them organized and it kept them going. So that was just a thought. The main problem, again, we're all different, but if I was in your shoes, I'm a procrastinator, like to the nth degree. And that was, some students just told me that was a good habit to get into, so they stopped putting stuff off until like Friday night or it's Saturday and like, oh crap, I haven't even opened up the online content. So let's look at the week 1 overview, because you'll always see this. The overview is where you'll find, I guess, your directions and what it is you need to do. We need to scroll down. It's more than just a or two. So there'll always be 2 parts to this. The overview will just be a nice little paragraph that tells you, hey, this is what we're talking about this week. If there's reading material, I'll tell you what chapter we're in. Not for this week. In fact, believe it or not, we're talking about the preface to the book. You ever even read the preface to a textbook? The content from today is actually coming from there. So there's content in your book, even in the preface, that's worthwhile. So this is just introduction to the course. And then I guess the really helpful thing for you is the checklist. Every week you will have a checklist. Literally, it is what it sounds like. This is what you need to do by Sunday at midnight. Congratulations. I think you know which team you're on. That was pretty easy to do. You're here. Yay. We went over the syllabus. Congratulations. 2 for 2. Post a response in the discussion forum. Well, there you go. So by Sunday at midnight, that's your goal. Post a response, and I'll talk about that in a second. Review the online content for week 1. You actually need to do that before you do number 3. And then, yes, number 5, please try to stay here. Try to stay healthy. Get the vaccine if you can. I'm actually next. Ooh, I'm in 1B, so I can't wait. Being a therapist, we're technically healthcare. So the rumor on the street, it's so confusing. I've actually never seen a more disorganized program than the vaccine program that we have. All I've been told is that I'm in 1B. I just don't know where to go or when to go or when it's going to start. But anyway, there you go. How about you guys? Do you know? Has anyone said anything? Are you even on a list or?
I have a friend that's a teaching major, and I think he said in February sometime.
February sometime?
Exactly when.
Wow. Okay. There we go. If you're in Michigan, you guys would have been vaccinated by now. So all colleges, universities, student staff, and teachers. So there's one good thing about the state of Michigan. They've been vaccinated before us. But anyway, hopefully we'll get there. So any questions over this? How stuff is going to go? All right, well, since we're here right now, before we jump to something else, obviously it says this. It says post a response. So let's go back to week 1. So underneath the overview, you'll see this little link. Have any of you ever watched the show Everybody Loves Raymond? If you have, great. I hope you liked it, because we're going to use that family as a backdrop, not all the time, but for several things. If you've never been introduced to Everybody Loves Raymond, I'm happy to do it. It's a wonderful little show. But anyway, Everybody Loves Raymond. If you don't know what it is, it's a sitcom that no longer exists. I mean, it's out there. But the family, and it's all about, Everybody Loves Raymond is all about family dynamics. That's where all the fun stuff comes. Of course, it's a sitcom, so things magically get resolved week by week, unlike in real life. But the family dynamics of this family are just, they're out there. So it's a nice little piece to use or example to use for a lot of the things that we talk about. And actually, that's what this is. This is a link to an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. That actually, the couple actually goes to counseling. But anyway, that was actually not on purpose. I just actually picked one at random because they're all good. So the discussions, how do I complete these? Well, underneath communication, there's a magical little tab called discussions. and it'll take you to our discussion forum. Again, if you have any problems navigating this, just let me know. So we'll be using this all semester. So go to our little forum, just click on that. I'm viewing this as a student. And then just click on the week 1 discussion. And there we go. So I point out how these things are graded. I mean, it's actually pretty obvious to tell if you actually put effort into these or if you just let it shoot. Well, let's just do that. So 2 things. So again, I see that for me, the discussion forum is like the bulk of the writing in this course. Instead of having 4 to 5 page research papers, the discussion forum, I think, is where we're going to be doing 90% of our writing. So by the time we're done, you'll have like a 15 to 20 page paper that you've written over the course of the semester. So grammar and content is how I grade these. So in other words, take your time. Don't just like half-ass it because you'll be a thing. I mean, you can. It's your choice. But anyway, as long as you post a meaningful, thoughtful response, fantastic. That's all we're asking in the discussion forums. And after you watch this episode, just a few simple questions. What jumps out at you? Yeah, I mean, you haven't learned any principles yet, which is perfectly fine. We haven't learned any theories to apply yet, which is perfectly fine. I'm just curious, as you look at this family, as you look at the couple, there's 2 parts to it. In the first half of the episode, you meet the couple, and you'll see lots of different things, the way they talk to each other, the way they treat each other. But then later on in the episode, Ray's family comes over, and it applies a whole new level of dynamics and interactions. And actually, I didn't mean to do this, but it kind of shows you what I mentioned earlier about how some interactions can run in the families, I guess, and that sort of thing. How one generation can have a significant impact on the relationships later on. So it's very straightforward. Sunday at midnight. There you go. Any questions? Because we're going to do something a little bit different. Does anyone in this class literally hate Star Wars? Just hate it? If you do, you might want to consider withdrawing. So I guess we also use the Skywalker family quite a bit in this class to talk about different theories and dynamics. But that's my fault because that's what I bring to the class. So before we do that, though, let's talk about these. Why are you guys here? You can just talk. Actually, this is what we're going to be doing this whole semester, is just talking to each other. You can just shout it out loud. I'm not going to go one by you first. Was this a requirement? Is it the only thing that fit in your schedule? You're just curious? You don't want to answer? You don't want to talk yet?
Well, I'm a psychology major, and I'm just interested in counseling, so I just feel this course
makes perfect sense. It has the word therapy in it, so it sounds good. Have you taken the counseling course?
No, I wanted to, but it wasn't open.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm the runner-up. Welcome. So, anybody else? Yeah.
I'm going for OT, and I feel like that is family therapy. You have to work with the families to do OT.
What are you going into?
I'm physical therapy.
Oh, OT. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. Yeah, you'll have to work with families. Good. Anybody else? I'm not going to force you. The one that I messed up on. What does therapy look like? That's a weird question. Kind of on purpose. Anyone maybe know anyone who's been to therapy? I've been to therapy. I'm a therapist. In fact, part of becoming a therapist is going to therapy, believe it or not. So that wasn't the first time. My introduction to family therapy was actually when I was 7. My sister had been diagnosed with an eating disorder, and part of the treatment, which I completely did not understand as a 7-year-old, all I remember, these are vague memories, but I remember being told, we're going to the doctor, and I'm like, okay, because I knew my sister had something, right? I didn't even know, obviously I'm 7, so I didn't really have a conceptualization of what an eating disorder was. All I knew is I had to go to this thing called therapy, and we all sat in a room, and the therapist asked us questions. I honestly don't remember any of the content at all. I just remember being really scared, remember being nervous, and we went to a hospital, and we all sat in a room together, and we talked about stuff, and I didn't understand why we were there, and no one really took the time to explain it to me, actually, of why we were going or why this was important. But that was actually my introduction to family therapy. But so what does therapy, there was a second part to that, right? How does it work? Any ideas? I'm just talking to someone. How does that do anything? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the person like you're talking to, like trained to like ask a certain question and guide you in your direction, like give your thoughts.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
That's a big part of it. Therapy is talking. That's absolutely a part of it. But therapy is also a lot more than just that. Therapy is also about having new experiences and experiences that actually change you and change your relationships and change interactions. And it's all right. And I asked these questions on purpose in the beginning just to see what you thought. What's the next? I know there's one about mental illness on there. Is that the next one?
No, it's the difference between the healthy.
Oh, healthy. What is healthy and unhealthy families? What's the difference? And how do you know? You ever walk into someone's house and you can like feel the anxiety? You're like, I need to get out of here. So you can sense it, right? Using the force. So there's a little practice. But how do you? What's the difference? Families are families, right? I'm gonna make you talk. What's one thing about a healthy family? You're looking at your family. I don't. It's just a normal human conversation. Yeah.
I think like the biggest communication,
Okay.
like healthy.
What's healthy communication?
Like being able to talk about your issues without like
So you just hit on something big. So a healthy family, you can actually talk to the people about real things and not just that small talk stuff that makes us all feel uncomfortable and that sort of thing. That's a good one. Anything else? Yeah. Respect. That's a very good. In other words, I'm going to extrapolate a little bit, but you can be yourself and feel comfortable being yourself because you don't have to worry about being treated poorly inside that little system. Just think of it this way. A good litmus test of healthy versus unhealthy families for someone who's in your shoes. And we can I could certainly relate to it in different ways when I was in your shoes, but some people, when breaks come up, like you're here at college, some people, when breaks come up, some people are really looking forward to seeing their family because they get to go home and they look forward to things like Thanksgiving and Christmas break and that sort of thing. They're happy to come back, of course, but they're happy to see their family, maybe in smaller and smaller doses the older that they get. But there's others of you who actually do not enjoy that at all. In fact, going home is something that you dread and you don't look forward to. And when you are there, you're spending most of your time just hoping and praying that it ends quickly and that you can come back. So just keep that. So families are very different. And there are families that are very healthy and they help us and they serve as wonderful, wonderful protective factors. But there are other families that are, put it this way, families can be so unhealthy at times that they can almost be toxic. And being inside that environment can actually bring out, which is why I asked this question on purpose, where do mental illnesses come from? Toxic family environments can actually, causality of mental illness is a whole different topic. It's a whole different class. In fact, if you ever took abnormal psychology, I'd highly recommend it. But what did you guys put down for where do mental illnesses come from? Yeah. Genetics. Absolutely. Genetics plays in what? Trauma. Absolutely. That could cause it. Anything else that you guys put down? Or just thoughts? Chemical and some neurotransmitters. Of course, that's the thing. Neurotransmitters, problems in the brain. You can have brain abnormalities that can cause. So, again, you don't need to write anything that's down. We're just kind of talking, getting some stuff out of the way. If you ever do take abnormal psych, well, I guess it depends on who you take it from. One of the very first things that we talk about in abnormal psych, one of the very first things I learned about mental illnesses as a therapist is there's no such thing as any mental illness that's either 100% nature, like biology and genetics, or 100% nurture, stuff coming from the environment. It's always somewhere in between. Now, the balance for each one is very different. Something like schizophrenia lots of genetics. But even something like schizophrenia, the environment is still involved. And whenever we say the environment or nurture, the main thing that therapists and mental health professionals are talking about is your family. It's not the only thing that we're talking about, but when it comes to the nurture side of mental illness, the family is by far and away the biggest player. I guess if you put it like a pizza pie, am I get that? I'm not Italian at all. Then I don't even know where that came from. But if you think of nurture as like a thing, the family is the biggest chunk of that. And that's where MFT comes in. Can we solve all the world's problems? But we do have a place in the world of treating mental illness, and that's sort of where it lies. Is that the end? Did we come to the last one? Oh, goody. So how many of you actually seen like the old Star Wars, like the original? Okay. Actually, this is a lot more fun actually if you haven't. So I'm not gonna bombard you with so don't worry, every week we're not gonna be talking about Star Wars. I'm not that big of a nerd. I am a big fan of the series though. But I mean, as a kid, of course, I fell in love with the science fiction and new spaceships and Star Wars and lasers and all that sort of thing. But as I got older, and maybe it's just because of the family that I came from, and I'll actually share a lot of stuff, but the family that I came from certainly motivated me to do the things that I do. As I got older, I actually started to appreciate Star Wars on a whole different level because, believe it or not, and George Lucas, the guy who came up with all this stuff, talked about how basically he was making like a soap opera. He watched I watched Days of Our Lives, I'll openly admit. And my wife, see, pandemics happen, you spend time at home, you start watching things that you never watched before. I'm freaking hooked on the bold and the beautiful. Why? Why do I get hooked on these things? But now I'm sitting here wondering what's going to happen. No, it's fine. But that's what Star Wars really is. It's actually a big, long story about families and relationships and choices that we make because of the relationships that we're in. Some choices are good, some choices are bad. But there's lots of stuff that trickles down between family generations. What I'm going to show you, though, has nothing to do with the family side of Star Wars, though. And of course, this logged off at the most inopportune time. If you've never watched the original Star Wars, it's kind of somewhat of a sin, actually. I'm sorry you didn't have a good upbringing. So we'll just start here. So a farm boy, a princess, a disembodied voice, 2 droids, a smuggler, a Wookiee, and a bad guy. This is what we're going to start here. So if you haven't seen it, it's wonderful. If it's been a while, this is okay too. And this is where question number 5 is going to come in. I'm going to show you a clip from the original Star Wars that shows something called the Death Star being blown up. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. I'll give you a 2-minute lesson of all that you need to know. So here are your choices. If you're familiar with Star Wars, you might not want to write these down because you probably know these people already. But if you've never seen Star Wars, you might want to make a little list because here are your choices to number 5. Who blew up the Death Star? The first, of course, is our farm boy. His name is Luke Skywalker. You've probably heard the name, even if you haven't seen the movies. But this is what he'll look like in the clip. He's flying a spaceship. He's trying to blow up the Death Star. The Death Star is bad, by the way. The Death Star is an evil space station that was built by the evil empire in the movie Star Wars. So that's Luke. That's our first. Luke Skywalker is our first choice. The second, maybe it's this person. This is Princess Leia. Princess Leia is actually Luke's sister. He doesn't know that, though, yet. Spoiler alert. Oh, my God. So he has a sister named Leia. Again, at this point, though, they have no idea that they're related to each other. Maybe it's this guy. This guy's actually not related to them. He's actually dead. His name is Ben, B-E-N. But this is the disembodied voice. You'll hear his voice. In Star Wars, no one really ever dies. So you'll hear at some point he will actually talk. He was Luke's mentor. He's not his father, but he's someone that Luke looks up to. And it turns out that he's able to speak to Luke even though he's passed away. Maybe it's these two. There's 2 robots that you'll see. C-3PO, maybe you've heard that. He's the golden one. And then the little guy is R2-D2. You'll see both of these pop up. Maybe it's those 2. Maybe it's these two, Han Solo, Harrison Ford, and his little friend Chewbacca. That's the Wookiee. They're best friends, and they fly around the galaxy together. But you'll see them pop up. Maybe they're responsible for it. And then last but not least, this is our bad guy. This is Darth Vader. He helped build the Death Star. And he's actually Luke's father, which means, of course, he's the father of Leia as well. But Luke doesn't know this. Leia doesn't know this. In fact, Darth Vader doesn't even know Leia's a thing. He knows he had a son at some point, but he has no idea that he ever had a daughter. So this is where it's going to get interesting. This is why it's so perfect. It's literally a soap opera that takes place in space with lasers. All right, you got your list? All right, so we're going to watch the clip. It's about 12 to 14 minutes long. But this is the ending of the original Star Wars, and our little group of good guys wants to blow up the Death Star, because it's bad. It's like a big moon-like thing that blows up planets, and who doesn't want to destroy that? So their mission is to destroy it. And then you can answer number 5. Are you ready? All right, so kick back and relax. If you've seen it, take a little 14-minute nap. Of course, I have no value.
Nah, you're like, that little droid and I've been through a lot together. You okay, R2? Good.
Gold Squadron, begin takeoff procedure.
Hang on tight, R2. You've got to come back. You wouldn't want my life to get boring, would you?
Luke, the Force will be with you.
He's experiencing his first audio hallucination.
Stand by alert. Death Star approaching. Estimated time to firing rate, 15 minutes. All weights report in. Red 10 standing by. Standing by. Red 3 standing by. Red 6 standing by. Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by.
Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
One guess was in attack position.
Hold tight.
Accelerate to attack speed. This is it, boys. This is gold. I copy, Commander. I'm heading to the target shaft now. We're in position. I'm going to cut across the axis to try to pull that line. Stay low.
Red 5, go ahead.
Are you alright?
I got a little tripped up, okay. We can't fake rebel ships, Lil Vader, but they're so small they're evading our turbo lasers.
We have to destroy them ship to ship. Get the crews to their fighters.
Come on. Bring it.
None of importance.
I'm right with you, I can hold it. No, I'm all right. The rebel base will be in firing range in 7 minutes.
Trust your feelings.
Squad leaders, we've picked up a new group of signals. Enemy fighters coming your way.
My scope's negative. I don't see anything.
Pick up your visuals, Johnny. Once you get behind your
Well, I'm watching. I can't see him. I'm tired. I can't see him. I'll be right there.
Several fighters are moving off from the main. Come
I can't shake it.
Thanks, where are you? Thanks, guys.
Bradley, this is Gold Leader. We're starting our attack run. I copy, Gold Leader.
stay in attack formation.
Locked in, locked in. No power.
Deflector screen. Switch all.
Power system. Deflector screen. How many guns do you think, Gold 5? They have 20 guns. Some of the surface, some on the tower. Switch to targeting computer.
Computer 1. Getting a signal. Guns, they've stopped. Stabilize your rear deflectors. Watch for enemy fighters.
3 marks at 210.
Check on myself. Come.
Yes, sir. I can't maneuver.
Stay on target.
We're too close.
Stay on target.
Loosen up.
Go 5 to red leader. On firing on top.
I copy, Gold Leader.
In front of the eyes.
Analyze their attacks. That is a danger. Should I have your ship standing by? Evacuate? In our moment of triumph? I think you overestimate their chances. Rebel base 3 minutes and closing. Red boys, this is Red Leader. Rendezvous at Mark 6.1. Red base standing by.
Red Leader, this is base 1.
Evacuate will go to range for the next one. Copy, base 1. Base 1, 2 and 3.
Hold up here, wait for my signal.
I'm down here around. This is it. Keep your eyes open for those fighters. There's too much interference. We got it, I see them. I'm in range. Target coming up. Just hold them up for a few seconds.
What's the formation?
Almost there. Let them loose. Almost there. I can't hold them. It's away. Negative. Didn't go in. Right above you, turn the point. Hold 5, we'll cover for you. Hey there, I just lost my starboard anchor. Get set up for your attack run. Those spiders up our back. Right with you, Lost. Look at that speed. We're getting blood in time. It's just like beggars can't get back home. Straight back, far enough to cover you. I can't be done. Shut it, you never hit it. These people run. What about that tower? You worry about those fires, I'll worry about the tower. Alright, chill, that stabilizer's broken loose again. See if you can lock it down. Coming in, point 3. Can't do any more good back there. Sorry. Hurry, you're taking your mustache. Aren't you trying to reach out? Hurry up. Wait! Hang on to.
Use the force. You're strong as you. Trust me. You switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm all right.
Rebel base, right.
Please stop and ready.
Command, primary ignition.
You're all clear. Take over. Go.
Three shots in that was one of them.
Remember, possibility.
All right, more on that father-son relationship later. Very simple question, it seems like. So, who blew up the Death Star? Answer that. What the? There seemed to be a mix in the room of I'm enjoying this versus this is torture. I've got special effects for 1977. I drove my marriage and family therapy supervisor, I think, up the wall because every theoretical paper that I wrote, I always used Star Wars as my backdrop. And now she knows that I show this on the very first day of Intro to MFT. She finds some joy in that. All right, so when you're done, I will collect these. Incidentally, you're going to get these back at the very end of the semester to see maybe how your thought processes have changed, or we'll see. But there we go. Pass them up. You know, it's easier than. You're like, to your left, to your right. Here it comes. All right, so get out whatever things you take notes in. We're going to do, well, talk about a couple things and we'll actually get to this. So this class is officially beginning now. We'll do about 15 minutes or so of stuff. And then because believe it or not, we did watch that for some type of purpose. Of course, there's Darth Vader trying to murder his own son, and he doesn't even know it. So yeah, lots of fun stuff to talk about with Star Wars. And yeah, I meant to show you that. That's the Death Star that they finally blew up. Let everyone get ready. I should tell you this. I don't know why. I meant to tell you this just to throw it out there. Let's say that this is like some kind of life-changing experience in May. You're like, I need to be an MFT. If you do become an MFT and you go to school for that, this actually is designed like a graduate course, believe it or not. In fact, the first course that I took at Ohio State in the doctoral program, guess which book we used? That one right there. So Intro to MFT, I actually just kind of lifted this off of my own experiences from Intro to MFT. We've had more than one student actually get credit for Intro to MFT in graduate school by taking this class. So you never know. This could be like graduate school credit for some of you someday. Just tossing it out there. So who blew up the Death Star? I could look at these. Well, actually, there's only like 9 of you in here. So I would say the farm boy, Luke Skywalker. It seems so obvious, right? Didn't he? It's the one that pulled the trigger, right? The voice, like that. Ooh. So we're giving credit to Ben, the voice, Luke Skywalker. Well, now here's a difference. So Luke Skywalker, very popular answer. This one is closer to the right answer. Luke Skywalker with the help from Ben. Farm boy, Luke Skywalker. Oh, Luke, there's your answer. So, and here's another one that's close. And I'm not criticizing anyone for being wrong. But of course, Luke Skywalker gets credit for blowing up the Death Star, right? This one says, I would say Luke, however, others helped him. That was close to where he was able to achieve it. So without their help, I don't think he'd be able to do it. Absolutely not. So this will make sense to therapy in about 5 minutes. Just trust me. So if you've had your book, maybe you got bored over break and you got it early and you read it 13 or 14 times and you remember the preface. This is actually from the preface of the book, but it's important to know, I guess, where MFT comes from. I think the first part of this course is telling you almost like a history lesson, like a story of why MFTs are a thing and why we're important and why the world of mental health was lacking when they weren't. But first, just something that trickles in our society, something that we call the myth of the hero. The myth of the hero is something that infiltrates, I want to say Western society. And when we say Western society, we're usually talking about Canada, the United States. But to be honest, it's really a United States cultural thing, the myth of the hero. And there's three different parts to the myth of the hero. And the first one is where our answer to who blew up the Death Star lies in. The first aspect of the myth of the hero has to do with your successes and also your failures. When someone achieves something, they win an award for teaching, whatever it is that they win, we prop that person up, right? In other words, we take all the credit, typically, or the majority of the credit for our personal successes. When in reality, those successes are only possible because of countless little assistance from other people working together. It's this person that gets the credit. You ever hear a really good coach speak after a game? Really good coaches usually don't take any of the credit. They're like, you know what? That's them that did it. But everyone wants to prop the coach up, right? It's the coach that did it. No, it's not really. It's everybody. The correct answer to who blew up the Death Star is every single one of them. Well, except the bad guy, not Darth Vader. They all did. They all worked together as a team to blow up the Death Star. But we also do the same thing with failure. If you fail at something, who do we blame? You. When failure actually works the exact same way. Something not working out is also a collective effort of a cast of characters. So the myth of the hero, the first part is we like to take all the credit when we succeed at something, but we also get placed with all the blame when we fail at something, when in reality that's simply not true. This is related to the second part of the myth of the hero. Who you are as a person. That's what authentic selfhood means. Just think of countless ways. If I ask you something very profound, philosophical, like who are you? Everything that you would write down is not just you. It doesn't just come from you. Who you are today as a human being is the culmination of all of the experiences and relationships and interactions that you've had with others. Yes, you're you. We're not saying you're not you and you're not a singular person. Of course you are. But who we are as individuals today, as adults, it's a culmination. I do what I do because of my experiences and past experiences. In fact, most therapists do. Let's just think of all the different aspects of you, what you're interested in, how you act in relationships, et cetera, et cetera. It's a culmination of all the experiences and relationships that you've had. Authentic, in other words, what we're saying, and I always say things like 3 different ways, so pick the one that you want, as long as you get the gist of it. Who you are this doesn't come in a vacuum. It's a collection of experiences and interactions that you've had. And then last but not least, well, let me tell you a little story before you write this one down. Actually, I think this family will come back a couple times in this class. When I was training to be a therapist, so this is pretty early on. This is like my first year of doing therapy. I had a family, we sort of got randomly assigned clients. I mean, you were just sort of on the list. There was like 10 of us that worked at the clinic, and you would get randomly assigned. And I remember one of the families that really had a profound impact on me, actually. The call was for the daughter. The family had called. They wanted the daughter to go to therapy. They were kind of vague on the phone, which is normal. This one, I think our daughter needs some therapy. Okay, well, that's the gist of it. There was more to it than that. But they came in, and I quickly learned that the parents were originally from Mexico. They were living here. They were U.S. citizens today, but both of the parents spent the majority of their lives, up until recently, in Mexico. Okay, that was neither here nor there at that point. Thank you for telling me that story. Their daughter, however, was born here in the United States. So she's only known what it is to live here. She also had a younger sister. The daughter that I was supposedly there to see and help, even though the whole family came, which was wonderful. Well, the one person who was missing was her 14-year-old sister. They chose not to bring her. So I had the 18-year-old girl who was the target, right? She's the problem. She's the one that needs fixed. The problem was this, and just tell me how you would feel, maybe as the therapist seeing this family, or if you were the daughter having this experience. The daughter was going to graduate from her local high school in Columbus in about a month, and she had lots of goals. She was really like hyper intelligent computers. Like she was like, it's amazing. In fact, she had a partial scholarship to Ohio State computer science, whatever it was at the time, computer programming. All I remember is computers. She was a genius, a 4.0. In fact, funny story, she was the first person I ever met that had more than a 4.0. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm really in the Wayback Machine now. When I was in high school, you couldn't get more than a 4.0. There was no such thing. And I remember her telling me she had like a 4.4. And I'm like, what? Then I realized, but anyway, that's why am I telling you this? But here was the problem. She wanted to go to college. That was the problem. She wanted to go to Ohio State. Her parents did not want her to go. Her parents wanted, you're already looking confused. Her parents wanted her to get a job, a full-time job. Actually, they had a couple choices for her. And they wanted her to work for 4 years to help pay for her younger sister's future college education. Then, once she's off to college, then she can make her choice. And you already look, you're in pain hearing this story. If you were a therapist sitting in that situation like I was, what would you start to feel as the parents were telling you this? What? Who? Yeah, and if I'm honest with you, those were the emotions I was feeling. I was like, are you kidding me? And I think they could probably tell, and I think they probably guessed, well, how would you feel if you were that girl? No way in hell. Are you kidding? Like, let's just be honest. I have a full ride. I'm going. So now you can understand where the tension of the family household was coming from. And the parents, their goal, they wanted me to change her mind. That was supposed to be the family therapy. I was supposed to change. You're already shaking your head no. And I'm not saying anyone in this room is wrong, and I'm not even saying I wasn't wrong for feeling those things. When you're doing therapy, you have to be honest with your emotions and how you feel, because those are your honest, genuine reactions to experiences. But one of the reasons you're having the feeling that you're having right now in this room, and it was something that I had never even really heard about or talked about, was because of these two little words that are up there right now. Individualism versus familialism. And it's the last part of the myth of the hero. And it's sort of the engine that drives the whole thing. The United States, from the outside, is viewed by far. I'm not sure how many of you travel outside the United States. We're not the only one. But we are by far the most individualistic country on the planet Earth. We have been for a really long time. I'm not putting a value judgment on that. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It just is what it is. We are a highly individualistic society. What that means is, right, it's in almost everything that we do. You fall in love with someone, who gives a shit if your parents like them or not? You do it. Like, I love Johnny, but I don't care if you don't love him. You don't understand, right? We romanticize this stuff. You go off, you marry Johnny, whatever it is. You have a dream, right? You go for it. You have a goal, you go for it. It's all about you and the individual. We even have phrases in our society like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? If you just work hard enough, if you fail, it's your fault. If you just didn't work hard enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have the right stuff. That's individualism, putting the self first. Again, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's right. It just is what it is. Other cultures, to varying degrees, tilt more towards familialism. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's the opposite. It's putting your family first, putting the collective first over the individual. The parents, quickly, telling me this story, they're not dumb. They knew exactly how I was going to react. And they could probably see it in my eyes. And they said, let's just tell you this. If we were still, and they understood, they're not in Mexico anymore. But they said, here's the strange part, is if we still lived in Mexico, we wouldn't be having this problem because she wouldn't even have this, it would be an instant reaction. Of course she wants to go to college, but of course she would make the choice to get a job to help pay for her sister first and then go off. Because that's the familistic choice, not the individualistic choice. I ended up seeing them, I'll tell you more about, but again, they'll come up again in therapy for different reasons. But that was my first introduction to this difference between cultures. And I got a crash course in what it's like to come from a different culture and have an experience that really hits you in the face of, wow, now we're having a problem because of this. And you can obviously see where individualism comes with the myth of the hero and all that. So, and by the way, so this is sort of, a lot of you have had me before and other things, but maybe some of you haven't, maybe it's been a while. This is sort of how things look, like with the PowerPoints, and then we talk to each other. So as you go, if you're ever inside your notes or you're writing something down and you wonder if you're writing it down correctly, or am I organizing my notes correctly? Because obviously up here I don't necessarily have like some kind of, right? If you ever ask me for the PowerPoint and you're missing, this is what you'll get. Like I'll hand it to you, but it might not make sense. So my message is, I don't want anyone to ever get lost or not understand anything. So if you feel even for a second, maybe there's something you're not writing down correctly, just ask me and I will sit down with you and make sure I'll repeat myself 8 times if I have to. I really personally don't care. All I care about is you not getting lost. So what's the point of telling you all this? Because this is just like American Society 101. Well, it's had a profound impact on therapy and how people view therapy and what they think therapy looks like, and actually how therapy does look like in most places. Over here. Therapy, what I mean by therapeutic sanctuary, if you're writing a heading for that, is therapy is grounded. Therapy's foundation is grounded in isolation. What I mean by that is the world of therapy and treating people with mental illnesses in therapy is all founded on a one-to-one contract. In other words, if you're the problem, you go to therapy. Well, okay, why wouldn't you? In fact, most people hear this and they think, well, duh, of course you do. If you have depression, you go to the therapist, right? Why would anyone else come? You're the one with the problem. That's how therapy was founded. In fact, Freud, who's going to come up in a second, just for a little bit, maybe some of you know this, maybe you don't. There are 2 godfathers of the world of therapy whose influence is still really strong. And the first one of those is Freud, who started this whole thing. So just a really quick snippet on Freud. We're not going to get into like the id and the ego and the superego and all that stuff. Freud did 2 things that actually still has a ripple effect on the world of mental health today. The first is he actually came up with this idea of talk therapy. If you didn't know that, congratulations, now you know. Some trivia for your next cocktail party. He had this crazy idea that holding things in isn't good for you, and that the best way to relieve this tension is to talk about it. I actually would agree with that. So you see, there's still some stuff about Freud that actually does make sense. He was also the first, he probably wasn't the first, he's just the first to write it down, I guess, and get credit for it. He was one of the first, I guess, psychological powerhouses that blamed mental illness on the family. He actually said, your problems come from your past. That's why you have this image in your head of someone sitting on a couch talking about their mother or their father. That really happened. And it still does happen in psychoanalysis. Because the belief is that your problems came from something to do with how you were raised. And he called this thing neurosis. Whatever's wrong with you. And you don't need to write this down, but just so you know contextually what we're talking about. Today we have things like depression, PTSD, anxiety, schizophrenia, right? We have all these different names of different mental illnesses. Back when Freud was doing therapy, in fact, this isn't too that long ago, really. Back in the 50s, I mean, that was a long time ago, but we're not talking about like ancient history. Mental illness was seen as one thing. I know this is weird for your brain to probably think of, but mental illness was just mental illness. It looked different. What we call schizophrenia today was considered really, really bad mental illness. And what we call anxiety and depression was like mild mental illness. But we didn't have all these names. If you were sick mentally, you just have a mental illness. That's where words like you're crazy come from. And Freud called it neurosis. So whatever was wrong with you was generally called neurosis, and this came from your family. That's what that means. We used words like anxiety and depression, but what we meant by that was like mild mental illness. Again, I know that's a weird way to think about mental illness today, but that's how we thought about it 60, 70 years ago. But here's the weird thing about Freud. He blamed the family. So you would think, aha, family therapy is boring, right? No, in fact, just the opposite. What he said was the family can never be allowed in the therapy room because they're the ones that are the problem, right? So there you go. That's how we got started down this road of no one else can come inside the therapy room. So he did this sort of counterintuitive thing. The family's the problem, but they can never come in. Which is why, still today, by the way, when you tell people on the phone, who else can come? Usually their instant reaction is, why would anyone else come? In fact, it's very common for parents to be like they literally just want to drop their kid off. Like their kid has anxiety or depression and they're like, fix my kid. Like literally, I mean, they don't really say that, but that's what they want. They think they're going to drop their kid off. And as a family therapist, when you ask everyone to come in the room, they're usually a little shell-shocked. They have no idea why you're asking a whole family to come in the room. And if you're out there right now thinking, well, why would the whole family come in the room? After 15 weeks, I think you'll understand why it could, in some cases, be the best way. But there's another role, there's another guy here, not just Freud, also a guy by the name of Carl Rogers, who actually taught at The Ohio State University. Carl Rogers is known as like super nice guy there. If you don't know who this is, you don't necessarily need to write this down. He was the guy that believed you could treat all mental illnesses by treating people with respect and being nice to them and kind to them and mutual regard and all this stuff. But anyway, his big idea was self-actualization. To be mentally healthy, you need to experience self-actualization. What does that mean? Like the English term, we always use that word. If you're self-actualized, what are you? And I hope all of you are. Ever heard the phrase, be all you can be? Or some variant of that, right? Be your best self. Self-actualization means you are literally living the dream. You're doing exactly what you want to do, and you're in relationships with exactly the right people that you want to be in relationships with. That sounds perfect, which is exactly what it is. Self-actualization means you are literally being your fullest, genuine self. So Rogers said all of us have this natural, right? I would kind of agree with it. Isn't that what we all want? Of course we all want to be our authentic self. He said the problem is none of us really are. Some of us are close, but a lot of us are not. And the further away you get from that, the more mental illness that you have. And who did he blame? Who gets in the way? He would really hate the Mexican family that I had because they're really screwing her up. She has these dreams and goals and wants to work with computers, and mom and dad are just literally telling her no. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Rogers blamed, like Freud, the family. Rogers said you're constantly, that's what the words approval and denial of self were up there. He said some people get just mucked up trying to win the approval of others, and they make decisions based off everyone else. They're never really making decisions for themselves. You want to go out to eat, you always go where someone else wants to go. You want to go to a movie, you always let your boyfriend pick, or your girlfriend pick, or whoever. You're never really being genuine. You're always sort of kowtowing to everyone else. The more that you do this, the further away you get from self-actualization, and that's the problem. But he blamed the family. And just like Freud, he said, therefore, the family can never come into therapy. Because they're the ones that are screwing you up. So this is where this all started. Freud blamed the family, but locked them out of the room. Rogers blamed the family, but locked them out of the room. And these guys, Freud and Rogers, if they said something, the field did it, because these are our professionals at the time. There is no one else. If Freud said something, everyone agreed with it. So it had this huge, long-lasting ripple effect. This will be the last thing that we do, last slide that we have for today. I'll let you write, yeah.
It's on there, denial of self.
Yes.
How was that summed up?
So,
Okay, I got that.
I really didn't necessarily define that too well. If you were, problems come from you denying your authentic self. That's what Rogers meant by that. In other words, since you're always doing what everyone else wants to do, I guess denial of the self would be like the general term he would use. That's the main problem with it. It might look like an eating disorder, but really what's causing that is you constantly denying yourself. So we've got two opposing ideas in the world of mental illness. Which one is the dominant force? Classic psychotherapy says that the dominant force that drives people's problems comes from inside you. It's internal. Intrapsychic is just a general term that means there's some kind of conflict within you. And that's where the conversation stops. You're the problem, you come to therapy. We'll fix you. Family therapists came along, though, eventually, and you'll learn more about that story later of how it was born and where it came from. Family therapists don't deny that the internal is a big deal. Of course it is. Of course there's problems inside you. Of course there, but the dominant force, what's driving this, maybe it's the external. Which, of course, if we're talking about, and I already hit this point, if we're talking about the external, the main part of that is the family. Not the only part of it, but it's the main part of it. And when people started looking at families, and they started working with families for the first time, there was a quote that sort of, when we call it the, anyone know what the word gestalt means? Gestalt, it's not a guy. Gestalt is a word that means whole. That's what it means. But there's a quote that sort of, it doesn't describe everything about MFT, but it's a very important quote to know, and it sort of sets the stage for everything that you're going to learn over the next 4 months. Anyone know what this quote is, by the way? It's called the Gestalt quote. You've heard it before, I'm sure. Maybe not applied to therapy, though. It goes like this, very simple. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. An easy analogy, if you've never heard this before, and again, we'll come back to this many times in different variations. But an easy analogy in people's brains that you could make would be like, just use an athletic analogy. That's probably an easy one. But there's many different analogies you could make. But there's been plenty of examples where, let's say we have an all-star team, like the Olympics come up, right? What do? Let's pick the best NBA players and throw them on the court. There you go. Do they win? Sometimes, but not all the time. And when they lose, people are like, how in the hell could they possibly lose? You have and it's true, you have the most talented people, but maybe they're not playing well together. Maybe they're not playing well as a unit. Because it turns out in team games, in team sports, where the whole is really important, sometimes the collection of a bunch of what you would label as mediocre players can conquer a team that's full of all-stars because they play together as a unit much better than this team of individuals who are all looking for, well, I want to be the one that scores a lot. I want to be the one that does this. It's almost like individualism versus familialism on a court. So the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's so true about your family. Your family, and you all come from different places, but your family is more than just a collection of different human beings. That's why they have such a power over you. Hopefully it's a good one, but in some cases it's a negative one. But whatever it is, it's strong and it's special and it's something you'll never be able to escape. It's the words that I use. No, your family will have a lifelong special impact on you because there's something about your family of origin that forms a collective that's greater than just a group of people. And it always will have that impact. So finally, a couple more things before we get out of here. And these are just general points. In traditional psychotherapy, the individual changes. That's the goal. Why wouldn't that be the goal? You have depression, I would like you to no longer have depression. But in marriage and family therapy, and in just family therapy in general, or in couples therapy or marital therapy, who changes isn't one person, it's the system, it's the collective that actually changes. So family therapist goals, I guess, are a little more lofty. We actually want to change the whole family system, the way the family looks, the way the family interacts. With the idea that if I can do that, then the individual parts will also change. They have to. You can't change the system unless the individual parts change themselves. And last but not least, the danger of assuming, what do I mean by this? And this is a trap that some of the early MFTs fell into. There's a danger in assuming that family therapy is always the best solution for everything. It's not true. But the early MFTs thought they had, I guess it was exciting, right? They were really helping people efficiently and rapidly. So they thought maybe we've reinvented the wheel. No, in other words, what we're saying is MFTs don't believe that you always have to see the family, that you can't see individuals. I told you in the first 5 minutes, 80% of my clients are individuals that I see. Individual therapy has immense worth. But sometimes, if it's possible, family therapy is. It's not all the time. It depends on the person, problem, situation, the dynamics. But you'll learn in this class, there were some early family therapists who actually refused to even see someone unless the entire family would come into therapy. They were like that adamant about it. I won't see you. And if you showed up to therapy, they would say, go home. If you came by yourself. But that's how into it, I guess, they were. So that's a good message. So MFT, just because I'm an MFT, it doesn't mean I think all the time, oh my God, I have to see your grandma. Bring everyone in. No, whatever. Individual therapy is awesome. But sometimes family therapy is helpful. It all depends on the situation. Any questions? All right, well, if you do, I'm not going anywhere. So I'm always here. Well, not all the time. All right, well, thanks for watching Star Wars with me. If you do have any questions, just let me know. I think, again, week 1, it's designed to be pretty straightforward. And I introduce you. And as the weeks unfold, we'll introduce you to more and more stuff. And I'll see if this works.